Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special meeting of the LA City Board of Public Works for Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Good morning, Dr. Campos.
Good morning, President Good. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Roll call and establishing quorum for today. We have President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, Commissioners Caloza and Commissioner Villegas are present. President Good, you do have a quorum. Good and Commissioner Villegas are dialing in remotely from their City Hall offices. Commissioners Garcia, Caloza, and Davis are dialing in from home. I am dialing in from my office here at City Hall, and we're also joined by our General Counsel, Mr. Ted Jordan, who is dialing in remotely from home as well. Mr. President, at this time, we currently do not have any commentary under the public comment section. We do have one comment under the Neighborhood Council comment section that was received by the Wilshire Center, Koreatown Neighborhood Council. That letter was submitted to us this morning and forwarded to all commissioners as well. She is also on the line, Miss Elizabeth Israelowitz, and I apologize, Elizabeth, for the pronunciation of your last name, is on the line as well, and that is for item number 3. So again, the Wilshire Center, Koreatown Neighborhood Council on item number 3 under the Neighborhood Council comment section. In addition to that, we do have a couple of other callers that are on the line for item number 3. We also received a commentary through Google form on our website for item number 3, and I can read that at the time that your board considers item number 3 into the record.
Okay, so all of our commentaries for item number 3, so we'll hold on that. And we'll read into the record the Google comment as well when we get to the item. So thank you, Dr. Campos. Hearing that there's no additional public comment or general public comment, we will move forward and jump into item number 1. Item number 1, colleagues, is approval of the minutes from Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. Do I have a second to my motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, good. Seconds from President Garcia and President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections, Commissioner Caloza or Commissioner Villegas?
None.
None from me either. Thank you.
Great. So the minutes from Tuesday, October 27th, 2020 are approved and moved forthwith. All right, let's move to item number 2. Item number 2 takes place in CD1 and CD14. It is a budget increase and change order. It is budget increase and change order numbers 34, 38, and 39. Public Construction Inc. Soto Street Bridge over Valley Boulevard and Union Pacific Railroad project. Recommending the board, 1, authorize $4 million in additional contingency and approve a revised construction budget of $17,866,960.42 for the Soto Street Bridge over Valley Boulevard and Union Pacific Railroad project. 2, authorize the city engineer to issue deductive change order number 34 for the project not to exceed $600,000 to delete retaining wall number 2 from the contract and appropriate the same amount for the project contingency. 3, authorize the city engineer to issue change order number 38 to Police Construction Inc. for a not to exceed amount of $272,000 for the removal of a portion of an unmarked underground tunnel structure within the Soto Street roadway widening. And 4, authorize the city engineer to issue change order number 39 to Police Construction Inc. for a not to exceed amount of $200,000 for the removal of unforeseen contaminated soil within the Soto Street roadway widening excavation. Shirley Lau is with us today to present on this. Good morning, Shirley.
Good morning. My name is Shirley Lau with the Bureau of Engineering, Bridge Improvement Division. I'll go ahead and start off with just a brief description of the project. The Soto Street Bridge, it is in CDs 1 and 14 and spans over Valley Boulevard as well as the Union Pacific Railroad tracks. The goal of the project is to rehabilitate the bridge, and we're also widening the bridge by approximately 25 feet to the west so that it will be approximately 79 feet when we're done. In addition to the bridge widening, we are also widening the roadway which leads up to the bridge to meet current standards and also the width of the new bridge structure. So there are 4 items in the recommendation, so let me go through each one. The first one, we are requesting to add $4 million in additional new funds that is being provided 100% by Metro through an approved funding with the State Route 710 Mobility Improvement Projects Program. And prior to receiving this funding, some of the sidewalk work and architectural treatments to support a wall for the sidewalk improvements, they were ineligible for federal funding because the Highway Bridge Program typically just funds project elements associated with the retrofit or the widening of the structure. However, during community meetings, the additional sidewalk improvements were requested and considered a high priority to improve safety on the east side of Soto Street to access Metro bus stops onto Valley Boulevard. And so with the additional $4 million, we're able to construct the sidewalk as well as some wall and architectural treatments, and any additional funds remaining will be used for contingency. Next, we have the change order 34, which is a deductive change order for a retaining wall that was part of the original contract scope. Due to many coordination meetings with LADWP, we are unable to relocate power poles that are in the way within the duration of the construction. However, removing this portion of work does not negatively impact the project, and we will add that to a future project that is adjacent to this project called the Soto Street Widening, Multnomah to Mission Road. So we are requesting that this change order will deduct a not to exceed amount of $600,000 from the contract. Next, we have emergency change order number 38. While we were doing clearing grubbing, we found a unmarked underground tunnel structure which was 25 feet wide by 20 feet deep. And we had a historian evaluate this tunnel to make sure that it was not a historic property or a historic resource, and it was not. And so some of this structure is interfering with the roadway widening, and so we are required to remove it in order to put in the new roadway. Therefore, this change order will compensate the contractor not to exceed amount of $272,000. Next is emergency change order number 39. While we were excavating for the roadway, we found some contaminated soil. We did further testing. In order to remove this soil, we had to remediate it and dispose it at only certain landfill sites. And so this change order will compensate the contractor for this additional remediation and work for 2,750 cubic yards of this unforeseen contaminated soil that we found. And that is a not to exceed amount of $200,000 for this change order. We did request emergency authorization to proceed with all these 3 change orders with the specific not to exceed limits, and received authorization to proceed from Commissioner Caloza on September 21st, 2020. The net cost of these 3 change orders is a credit to the city of $138,000 and does not exceed the original contingency amount that was authorized by the board. So the Bureau requests the board to approve the recommendations set forth in this report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Lau. Let's open it up, colleagues. Start with you, Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. Good morning to everyone. Shirley, nice to see you again. It's always a pleasure. Shirley, when do we project, have you started, has this work started? I know that there's been a lot of, you found that underground tunnel and then the soil, contaminated soil. Has the work actually started with the bridge or not yet?
Yes, the bridge work is approximately 50% done. We have demolished portions of the abutment and put in what we needed, the piles, and we also erected girders for the widened portion of the bridge. So yes, we did, we're about 50% way through.
Okay, when do we project for this project to be fully completed and for, the community to enjoy it?
Yeah, we anticipated probably fall of next year, October 2021.
Okay, sounds fast too. Thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis, any questions or comments?
Yes, I wanted to ask Shirley, in terms of the retaining wall, what was the allocated amount in the budget for that particular project?
The one that was removed from around $600,000.
So that was $600,000.
Yes.
And then my other question is, overall, in terms of the work that we have done, 50% of it has already been complete in terms of the bridge. What was the business inclusion opportunity we had there, or how did we deal with, I guess it's locally funded project, not a federally funded project?
This is a federally funded project. So
I see.
Yes, it is a disadvantaged business enterprise. So we had a goal of 8% that was determined by Caltrans, and we have met the goal. I don't have the board report with me, but I can provide that information to you.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Commissioner, this is Ted.
Yes.
The Bureau keeps track of all of that information. Just for your information, when we start getting a lot of change orders on these projects, and so certain tasks, that we didn't necessarily know were going to be done, have to get done, or certain things that we thought were going to be done are no longer needed. That can somehow, that can occasionally have an impact on the final numbers for the project. So it's something that happens on all of our federally funded projects where, we know at the beginning what we think is going to happen. We have these numbers, these pledges, but then, when the project actually goes through and we have change orders, and sometimes change orders could be significant, then that can have an impact on the final numbers. I just put it out there so that you have an understanding as to,
Absolutely.
what happens at the beginning of the project and what happens at the end. I mean, but the Bureau always keeps track of the numbers throughout the project.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any questions or comments, Commissioner Closa?
No, I was briefed by Ms. Lau. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you for the explanation. I know this item was before our board not too long ago where we allowed HNTB to be a contractor for this project. I'm familiar with it just because it's literally down the street from my house. So I pass it every day and I see the progress. So it is 50% done. I see that, and I'm so glad that you guys are having community meetings on this project. I'm curious to know how those are being conducted. Is it just with the neighborhood councils, or is it just via Zoom, or like how are you soliciting feedback?
The last time we had the community meetings, they were in person. However, we will be reaching out to the council offices again to see how we can give the community an update. But it was, the outreach was done by the council offices back then when we did have it. So I think it was more than just the neighborhood councils. There were quite a few people who attended.
Yeah, there's a big interest in this area.
Yes.
Lots going on there with just a lot of improvements.
Yes.
I have no more questions, thanks, or comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. So, Ms. Lau, the original scope of the project included a lot of the amenity, thinking about change order for the grant or the funds from MTA. The original scope did include more of the amenities, right? But we found out that the federal government wouldn't pay for those.
Right. The federal government actually did not want to pay for the sidewalk on the east side of even the bridge because we had sidewalks on one side already. And so that portion of work is added, the sidewalk on the east side of the bridge, and it continues along the roadway all the way leading down to Valley Boulevard where the Metro bus stop is. That was the desire of the community to have that installed as part of this project.
And that was previously contemplated as scope.
Yes.
Prior to the determination of the federal government that they didn't want that.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so I think that, thank you, Ms. Lau. I appreciate and thank you, Commissioner Colosa, for handling the emergency requests previously. I think given that this is not going to be, this change order number one, the first one, sorry, change order number, that is change order number, sorry, which one's the?
34, the deductive.
Yeah, don't think that that's going to be subject to the cost containment process because the original scope ultimately hasn't changed, and this is a change order, and we've gotten approval on moving those forward. So I would motion to, or actually, do I have a motion to move this forward?
So move.
Okay, I'll give it to Commissioner Colosa. We have a motion to move the item number 2 forward, and I'm going to take that as a second from President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections or concerns, Vice President Garcia or Commissioner Villegas?
No objections.
Yeah, none for me, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Ms. Lau, the item, hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. All right, colleagues, that brings us to item number 3. Item number 3 is in CD 10. This is a tree removal request at 3170 West Olympic Boulevard, recommending the board, 1, find under the California Public Resources Code, section 21166, in the state's environmental quality guidelines section 15162, on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record that since the city's prior certification of the mitigated negative declaration, number ENV-2016-3663-MND, there have been no changes to the project, changes with respect to the circumstances under which the project is being undertaken, or new information of substantial importance concerning the project, which cause new significant environmental effects or a substantial increase in the severity of previously identified significant effects, and therefore no subsequent MND, supplemental MND, or other analysis is required for the project. 2, specify that the Bureau of Street Services Urban Forestry Division, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. And 3, review and approve the request for a fee permit for the removal of 5 camphor trees. Tree replacements are required. Hector Benuelos is with us, but I think before you give the report, Hector, why don't we go ahead and have our public comment heard out, and also read from the record the Google comment that we received before. So Dr. Campos, can you set that up?
Thank you, Mr. President. For the record, item number 3, we did receive one Google comment from the Wilshire Center Koreatown Neighborhood Council, and their comment is against the item, and they indicated, please see associated email with objection letter. That objection letter that is being referred to in the Google comment form was submitted this morning, and that was forwarded to all the commissioners. This is a letter of objection to the tree removal at 3170 West Olympic Boulevard. Mr. President, we do have 3 callers on the line for this item. The first caller is from the Wilshire Center Koreatown Neighborhood Council, Miss Elizabeth Israelowitz. Elizabeth, if you can go ahead and please press *6 at this time. Since you are a member of the Wilshire Center Neighborhood Council, Koreatown Neighborhood Council, there will be no time limit on your commentary. Elizabeth, caller.
Hi, yeah.
Hi, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Israelis. I am representing the Wilshire Center Koreatown Neighborhood Council. We unanimously, through our Sustainability Committee, which has the power to provide comment, voted to oppose this. Again, I just want to bring up the fact that as far as these tree removals, there has been no outreach to the community and no involvement of the community in this. There are no records besides the few that are attached to the agenda, but within your city clerk record display. So we don't even really understand what's completely going on. Olympic Boulevard is wide. It is like a highway, and it doesn't need to be widened. This project, while we do want to retain, excuse me, we want to retain the dedication, but we don't want the street improved. There's no need to widen the street. Because it's an entire city block, in order to maintain the dedication, we ask that the curve be left where it is and that the sidewalk be widened, but that also the parkway be widened as well. This will allow for the maintenance of these trees and will ensure that these trees don't have any issues with the sidewalk in the future. If there's a belief that there will be future issues with the sidewalk, we ask that, like other areas of the city, we be given the courtesy of having permeable sidewalks, which will allow for better root growth. And we ask that a irrigation system be put in because that will help ensure that the roots don't further grow higher up. Based on what little information we can find through what was posted to the Board of Public Works just yesterday, it appears that all of these trees have been stated are in good health, good to fair health, and that none of them pose any type of immediate danger because of disease or decay. So again, we're asking the dedication be kept, but it be pushed back into the property line so that way the sidewalk can be moved over and there can be given more room to keep these trees. We ask that any type of DWP or any type of DWP conduits or any type of storage or of construction materials not disturb the trees. These are mature trees, and as you guys know, we are one of the lowest income neighborhoods in Los Angeles. We are the most diverse. We are the most densely populated, second to most densely populated community in the whole United States, and yet we have the least amount of trees. We have no parks. We have no major parks. We have very little green space, and we have an ever increasing environmental risk. And every single year that goes by, we lose hundreds of trees. And yes, they are replanted oftentimes, but they're very small, and they do not filter the same amount of particles as these mature street trees will, and currently do. It is imperative that our neighborhood council area keep every single healthy or near healthy mature tree that we have. This is a major environmental justice issue that we are being robbed of trees as we are giving more and more development and asked to shoulder a larger and larger burden of the Los Angeles population. So we ask that you please protect these trees. If you do believe that today it does not warrant a denial of the permit, we at least ask that you give us time to work with urban forestry, street services, and the developer to figure out how to save as many mature trees as possible and how to ensure that we can have more green space on the parkway and that we can still have ADA compliant, accessible sidewalks for our community. Thank you. No further comments.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Great, Mr. President. We do have two other callers. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next caller, Ms. Joanne D'Antonio, caller ending in 631. Can you please press *6 at this time to unmute your microphone? You'll be given 2 minutes to speak on item number 3. Please go ahead. Ms. D'Antonio, caller ending in 631. Can you please press *6 at this time to unmute your microphone? You'll be given 2 minutes to speak on item number 3.
Am I unmuted? Hello?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay. Joanne D'Antonio, NCSA Trees Committee and CFAC representative. Emma Howard, Director of Planning in CD4, has informed me that there has been a change and street widening is no longer automatically required. As Public Works Commissioners that hold our public trust, you have a mandate to check if this widening is unnecessary so as not to destroy important infrastructure in a disadvantaged community. I'm sorry that you consider this at the 11th hour, but here is your opportunity to continue this and think out of the box to avoid infrastructure destruction in an area that can ill afford it. I know all of you take your work seriously. You make the decisions as to what we Angelinas get for infrastructure. You can replace light poles right away, but it will take you 20 years, the time it takes for saplings to mature, to regain the ecosystem services of these street trees that are being removed in addition to the 22 property tree removals by the applicant that we cannot control at this time. Please see if this street tree loss can be avoided. I don't need to repeat the DUDEC report, which was adopted by this Board of Public Works in December of 2018. Things have changed, and I do believe that this widening restriction was something that is now outdated and may have been in effect when the MMD was first done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. D'Antonio.
Mr. President, we'll go on to the next and final caller. It's Ms. Amy Lee. She is a representative from the applicant. Since she has a real party of interest, we will not put a time limit. Ms. Lee, if you can please press *6 at this time to unmute your microphone.
Hello, my name is Amy, and I'm representing the developer project at 3170 West Olympic. Today I'm requesting for the removal of 5 trees on Olympic. To make the long story short, we're giving 3 feet highway dedication, total of 5 feet highway dedication, 3 feet for the street widening, 2 feet for sidewalk widening. It was required by the city planning, and to satisfy that condition, we have to work on the sidewalk and the street redone accordingly. And to remove that 5 trees removal on the Olympic must be done for us to complete the dedication request per city planning. And per our CPC case, on the first page, it also indicates that based on the meeting that was held on March 19, 2019, the LA City Planning Commission took action and got us approval for the project to include the removal of 8 trees, which is 5 on Olympic, 1 on Hobart, and 2 on Serrano Avenue. Right now, existing trees are 5 on Olympic and 1 on Serrano and none on Hobart. And I just want to assure that we are planning more greens and trees to support the city environment. Thus, we're planning 7 new trees on Olympic, 5 trees on Serrano, and 5 trees on Hobart. That's a total of 17 trees. And currently it's 6 trees only. And the landscape plan for the planting new tree has been submitted and approved with the city planning on September 11, 2020. And because of the widening, we got the B permit, and it also indicates that developer to provide the relocation of the existing power pole on the corner of Hobart and Olympic, relocation of fire hydrant on Hobart, and new fire hydrant service on Serrano, and relocation of the traffic signal, and much more work to be done for the dedication of the project. It is the developer's intention to support the community and the environment by providing low-income units along with more greens on the street and even inside our project. Granting removal of 5 trees on Olympic side is going to help us to work on the 5 feet dedication, which is again 3 feet for street widening, 2 feet for sidewalk. I'm here to answer any questions, and if you have any concerns or questions, let me know, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Campos, that concludes public comment, correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right. So, Hector, Mr. Benuelos, can you please walk us through the presentation?
Yes. Good morning, President Good, Commissioners. Hector Banuelos with the Streets LA Urban Forestry Division. We have before us is as you may know, it's a request for a permit to remove 5 camphor trees growing in front of 3170 West Olympic Boulevard. As the applicant is proposing to construct 252 residential units, a 5-story, 7-story complex. And the project was bounded by Toronto Avenue and Hobart Avenue. So it's a 4-block there. And there the applicant is required to perform street widening as a condition to build. As previously mentioned, they're going to be widening the street there. The total dedication is 50 feet currently. It's going to be widening it to 55 feet. And this is all consistent with the 2035 LA mobility plan as indicated on the letter of determination. The trees along Olympic Boulevard are in fair condition. However, they do have some structure problems with the trees, as noted. One of the trees there does have 2 limbs only shooting up. It's a relatively small tree considering the species. Removal of that dry limb is not going to leave much of a tree on that particular one. There's a large tree there that does provide some canopy at the corner there on the southwest corner. However, it does have a moderate lean towards the building. And there's other problems with the trees. There's the crowns are not dense relative to the species. They normally don't have dense crowns, but the space there is a very small growing space. And these trees have already been impacted just by the restricted growing space there of these trees. These trees are better suited to be planted like in 8-foot or larger parkways. But we have them in restricted growing spaces 4 feet by 4 feet. We have most of the soil structure there is compacted like 25%, or up to 95% for concrete installations. So it's a very harsh environment for the camphor species, and they're not performing very well. And I think as urban forestry, we always try to pursue keeping healthy, mature, established trees whenever possible. However, these trees are, albeit we noted as fair condition. However, they do have their structural problems there with the branching and the sparse crowns on these trees here. And we feel this is an opportunity, perhaps, that the trees can be removed and replaced with the tree species that perform better and more feasible, or more appropriate for the restricted growing spaces as typical along these major thoroughfares. If approved, the applicant will plant up to 16 street trees there, 7 pink trumpet trees there along Olympic Boulevard. There's room to plant 4 pink trumpet trees on Serrano Avenue and 5 Brisbane box trees on Hobart Avenue. There is one small pink trumpet tree growing on Serrano Avenue that is, we're requesting that tree remain in place. And the neighborhood councils, the city, the council district 10, and the community forestry advisory committee were advised of the tree removal permit request. If approved, the applicant will water these 16 trees for a minimum of 3-year period. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Benuelos. Vice President Garcia, any questions or comments?
Thank you, President Good. Good morning, Hector. Hector, 2 questions. What size, okay, given if it all goes through and, I'm not a big fan of taking trees down, but what size of replacement trees will you be putting in? I know that they're pink trumpets.
Well, the applicant will be planting 24-inch box-sized trees.
We can't get them to be bigger than that?
Well, when we're looking at larger trees planted in restricted growing spaces such as these, we get them large trees, and once they start growing, they're relatively slow in acclimating. Right? So the 24-inch box trees is the standard. I mean, I don't know. We can perhaps speak with the applicant, see if they're willing to plant larger sized trees. But the Urban Forest Division, given that the trees that are there now, is satisfied with the replacements of the 24-inch box sized trees.
Well, my only concern is that we're taking away the trees, and then we're gonna put baby trees that will take many years to grow, and then we don't provide the shade that these at least give some shade out. I see what you're saying. They're very long trees. These are the ones that are up now. So I would want to say that I would want the trees, if we could, based on your analysis, Hector, if we can advocate for bigger trees, at least, 36.
I'm okay with that, with the applicants. I'm not sure if we can require them to do so, but the Urban Forest Division is good with that recommendation.
Okay, well, I'll leave it on the table for now. And then my second one is, there's a really nice median in there. Will that be touched? Because it looks like it just got done.
Those medians were constructed several years ago by Urban Forestry Division as one of the design build projects.
It's really pretty.
The applicant is required to perform any street improvements along the median.
Okay, so it will not be touched, in other words.
No, it will not.
Okay, that was my concern. Those are my questions for now. Obviously, I look forward to my colleagues' questions as well.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis? You're muted, Mike.
Okay, thank you, President. Hector, I wanted to ask about the trees that are being removed. The first speaker spoke about one tree in particular that is going to be removed, and I guess you heard her testimony as well. And obviously, it was no way to save that tree. Is that correct?
Which one tree? I didn't really catch that one.
Yeah, I didn't hear her specify by number or identity that tree, but she mentioned one tree. Well, obviously, I would think that we, at least the prime contractor, is moving the tree because I would hope that he feels that there was no other alternative. The other issue I have is she mentioned being able to communicate with the primes in terms of the plans that they have for removal for trees, to see if in fact there might be some communication between both those constituents and the prime contractor. I don't know, is that humanly possible? She mentioned that they would like to have some communication with him about their plans moving forward, I guess to prevent any additional problems that might be brought to the board if they could communicate with the prime contractors in advance.
I believe we do have the applicant's representative here online. I think they should be, I would defer to them to see if they can communicate.
Sure. Okay.
Hi, Ms. Lee, if you could press *6 at this time.
Hi.
Hi, Mrs. Lee. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Okay, good. I asked the question regarding one of the constituent inquiries regarding the communication with you about moving forward our plans for trees. They seem to think that in communicating with you that there could be some agreement between some of the concerns that they have about trees in the area without having to come before the board to protest the project moving forward. And I was asking Hector, who appropriately referred me to you, to see if that's a possibility.
I would prefer to just follow the city's requirement and pursue the project.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I hear that, Ms. Lee. Can you say that again?
I would prefer to follow the city requirement.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Calosa.
Thank you, President Good. Thank you, Mr. Banuelos, for your report and all the public comment given on this item. I think there are a few issues that were brought up that I just had a few questions on. First, just wanted to clarify, I know the applicant mentioned that there were 17 replacements occurring, but I think the report says 16, so I just wanted to clarify that. Is it 16 or 17, Mr. Banuelos?
We have identified 16 potential locations because there is one existing tree on Serrano that is to remain. So if that tree was somehow, well, if it wasn't there, then there'd be room for 17. But the tree is existing. We are expecting that tree to remain. It's a relatively small trumpet tree there that's on Serrano. So that's where the tree number 17 would be.
Got it. Maybe if I could just quickly verify that with the applicant, Ms. Lee, is that your understanding? Just so we're understanding the right number of tree replacements that we're discussing today.
Yes, we're on the same page. Originally on our CPC, it tells us that to remove the Serrano tree, but since it's in good condition, we don't have to work on that Serrano side since we're now working on the highway dedication on the Serrano North, the Hobart side. So it would be a total of 7 Olympic trees and 4 on Serrano and 5 on Hobart, and I stand correctly, it's on 16 total.
Got it. Okay, so 16 tree replacements. And I just had a question for you while you're on the line, Ms. Lee. You talked about some low-income units. Can you just briefly describe what that is? In relation to this project, there wasn't as much detail in the report, so I think that would be good to hear what that is, how many units.
Okay, we are working with the housing department, and right now we're providing, with this project only, we're providing 47 low-income units.
Out of how many total units?
47.
47 out of how many total units is your development?
252.
252. Okay. And this is my last question for you before I ask Mr. Benuelo some questions. But in terms of where you are in the process, like how far along are you in construction? Just curious, and when is the projected completion of this development?
The projection of the completion of the project is summer in 2022, less than 2 years. And right now we are currently working on the 4th deck. This is a 7-story building.
Okay, so you're on the 4th floor out of 7.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Lee, for answering my questions. Mr. Banuelos, I wanted to ask, and I'm sorry to keep asking you this during these tree removal items, but it keeps coming up. Like, can you just, I know it's listed here in the report that the appropriate neighborhood council offices were notified, and so was CFAC. Could you confirm, was this specific neighborhood council, did they receive notice of this tree removal item?
The Urban Forest Division notifies the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment because the community members change often in all the 99 or 100 certified neighborhood councils. We rely on Department of Neighborhood Empowerment to notify the respective the neighborhood councils.
So just so we're clear on the process here, you, Streets LA doesn't notify the specific neighborhood councils. You give the notice to the Department of Neighborhood Council as a Department of Neighborhood Empowerment as a department, and then they're the ones responsible for notifying the specific neighborhood councils.
That is correct.
Got it. That's the first time I've actually have some clarity on that. I always thought for some reason that you all notified the neighborhood councils directly.
Commissioner, this is Ted. Just to jump in on this, just for the record, by my count, this is at least the 3rd public hearing on this project. The first 2 that I'm aware of occurred in the planning department, including December 28th, 2018, where the advisory agency considered the vesting tentative track map. That action was taken. It identified the tree removals and had an appeal date that people could use. And then later on March 14th, 2019, as the applicant's representative indicated, the City Planning Commission took further action on the project concerning the density bonus that is coming out of the low-income housing that they're constructing. So each of those were done as public hearings, just like we're heading here.
Right. No, thank you, Ted. Thank you, Mr. Banuelos, for clarifying that. And just one last question for me is, can you just give us a summary of urban forestry's review of these trees and whether or not any additional trees were saved while you were looking at this project?
Well, the initial report, when the initial request came in, they wanted to remove all of them, including the one tree there in Serrano. There were two other trees actually noted on the prior plans, but the project goes back a couple of years. And since that time, I know one of them was dead already. And the other one, I'm not sure what happened to it. It appeared it had died as well, and they were subsequently removed. And I don't have a record that we did it, but it's assumed that the Urban Forest Division did remove those trees. They were dead. So we do have one remaining tree on Serrano. Now, and looking at the trees along Olympic, as I previously mentioned, we do look at preserving the trees, healthy, mature trees, whenever possible. These ones here, the camper trees, do have their, we noted them as fair. However, they have sparse crowns. They're not performing very well for this particular tree species. As I previously mentioned again, they're better suited to be planted in large parkways, not in restricted growing spaces such as these 4-foot tree wells. So they're really the wrong tree in the wrong place. Unfortunately, the Urban Forest Division sees these as an opportunity to perhaps remove these trees and get them replaced with a species that are more appropriate for those locations. We do have several pink trumpet trees planted along Olympic Boulevard that help give a sense of identity to this area. And those trees are actually performing pretty well. I just drove by there this morning along that street and seen that several of the trees that I believe they were planted by some of the nonprofit organizations, partners, they're doing fairly well. Most of them are doing very well, actually. And so we are of the opinion that when these trees are replaced, that the trees will add a sense of continuity to the corridor, and they will perform better in these tree wells as opposed to the trees that are there now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Banuelos. I don't have any other further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Coloso. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I think a lot of the other commissioners asked the similar questions that I was going to be asking today. So thanks for that clarification. I just wanted to, just one question. I think I heard on public comment that there was a discrepancy on the sidewalk widening. I don't know if Ted can clarify anything on that sort.
We have the applicant online that may be.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I think the applicant can speak to that. I know, I don't know if I'd characterize it as a discrepancy. One of our speakers spoke to some comments made by staff from Council District 4. I might point out that this project is located in Council District 10.
It's in 10, yeah.
There are requirements that are imposed on the project. So those requirements the developer has to meet. If the full council decides that, through policy purposes or otherwise, that they want to do things differently, that's all well and good. However, this project has requirements that the developer is required to meet. Some of those requirements may have been factored into the determination by the planning department to grant the mitigated negative declaration. So if there have been some changes in policy, which I'm not aware of, but let's assume that they had been, the requirements that this developer has to meet the requirements of its entitlements, those still exist. And so there have been no changes in that regard. If the requirements that were imposed on the developer had changed, and that happens in the planning process, not in the public works process, then things can change in the project. But I'm not aware of any changes of the nature that the speaker spoke to. And it may be Council District 4 wants to do some things differently in its district. But again, this is Council District 10.
Thank you for that clarification. I just wanted to have that on for the public to be able to hear. I have no additional questions. And just one last comment. these were decisions already done, prior, so we, are just making the decision on the tree removals, and I just wanted to, state that for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. A couple of questions. Actually, well, Dr. Campos, did you say that the neighborhood council has requested to speak again?
Yes. Elizabeth Israelowitz is on the line. Raise her hand. If your board is okay, I can go ahead and reopen the line.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Mrs. Rolowitz, if you can press *6. There you go.
Hi, yes. So I just wanted to clarify, we're against the removal of all 5 trees. We would also note that in CD, all of the council districts that are within the Wilshire Center Koreatown Neighborhood Council, including 10, 4, 13, all of those have allowed for changes in street widening. The Project Zero data shows that when you have single block cutouts or partial block cutouts that are widening of streets, that we actually have more pedestrian deaths and more vehicle accidents. So to widen a single block of Olympic is actually much more dangerous. And we asked that what would have been used for that widening be provided to those 5 trees, allowing them to have what urban forestry has stated would be a proper growing environment. I would also note that in the time that this project has been ongoing, there have been many changes in the neighborhood that changes the environmental impact of losing 5 trees. There have also been multiple deaths on Olympic Boulevard due to pedestrian and car accidents. And if these trees were given proper nutrition, water, and the proper growing environment, we believe that they would be able to flourish. I would also note that we were provided a single notification telling us that we had 30 days to respond, not given a date for the meeting, and it wasn't until yesterday we had access to any of the documents. And that it is very confusing because it says to find the whole packet, you have to click on one link, you click on the link and it says there's no packet for today, then you have to click on another link through the agenda that finally gives you the packet. And so we don't have access to any of these documents, and no one reaches out to us. And we've had the same email through Department of Neighborhood Empowerment for at least the on and off. I've been on and off of the council for about 6 years, all 6 years. So we have one email address, and we don't get any of this information as far as the actual tree removal. Back in 2018, all we were told is that if trees need to be removed, they'll be removed. We weren't given a lot of specific information. And so we really just want to be able to work with you guys to ensure that this is safe for pedestrians, but also, really does take into account the lack of mature street trees that we have. We do believe that these trees absolutely can flourish if given the right environment, and we absolutely ask that you don't widen a single block. It is going to lead to more death. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A few questions. So I believe in the original MND, it called for 8 removals. Is that correct, Mr. Benuelos?
They called for all the trees to be removed.
So what? And again, what led us to the 5 versus the 8?
There is 1 remaining. There were 2 previous trees also that died and subsequently were removed. So you have a total of 8 trees there initially.
Okay.
Mr. President, I believe the 8 trees, there was 1 on Hobart, or maybe, I think 1 on Hobart, 2 on Serrano. The 1 on Serrano is going to remain in place. The 2 on Hobart, I believe, are the ones that Mr. Ben Willis was referring to by the 5.
Okay, thank you. So I'm curious. So we're looking at 16 new replacement trees, and we're losing ostensibly 5 if approved. the requirement in that situation would only be 10. Why are we doing, what led to the commitment to 16, Hector?
There was room to plant that many trees. And so also written within the letter of determination, the applicant is required to plant trees for right direction at all feasible planting locations.
Okay. And then, that was Streets LA or the developer's plan?
The developer has it listed on the plans, but as part of their conditions, they're required to plant trees. So if no trees were removed, they'll still be required to plant trees at all feasible locations.
Okay, and that's part of the project approval through planning.
Yes, that is all that's pursuant to the letter of determination and the conditions to build.
Okay. And is it conceivable that if and maybe this is a question for you, Mr. Jordan, if the widening were not to happen, that would be I mean, certainly it's not within our purview here, but would that potentially have implications for the CEQA M&D determination?
That's a good question. I'd have to look at the underlying initial study and mitigated negative declaration that was done at the time that the developer got their vesting tentative track. The condition to dedicate that 5-foot strip on Olympic was specifically a condition of the vesting tentative track. So if they don't do that, then that calls into question certainly that important part of this project. What I don't know is whether the improvement of Olympic so that it meets the city's standard, Boulevard 2 standard for the LA mobility plan, whether that was a factor in the mitigated negative declaration. But again, I just would remind the board that that was a condition imposed by the planning department to the advisory agency. If there's a desire to change that, then they can certainly go through that process. But that's the appropriate process to address whether or not that requirement is part of the problem.
Right, and that is, I think, a quandary we continue to be in, colleagues and members of the community, is that simply put, whether or not the pedestrian safety, which is paramount in the city, that is not so much our purview. That is part of the planning process. What we are looking at is the request for removal of trees consistent with the project that was approved by the planning department and subsequently dealt with by the Bureau of Engineering. For Ms. Lee, 47 low-income units out of 252, is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
So that is, in my very Flintstone calculations, that's approximately 18 to 19%.
Correct.
And that is for low income or very low income?
I believe it was for very low income.
Mr. President, yes, the planning department's letter of determination that was associated with the density bonus refers to the units. It actually says 46. That doesn't mean there aren't 47, but that document refers to 46 being set aside for very low income households.
Okay, I stand corrected.
That's the document from the March 14th hearing. Mailing date of the document is April 3rd, and it's part of the record as, I think, transmittal number four.
Right, and Ted, you said, again, the document codifies that it's very low income, correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a transmittal on today's report that it doesn't say very low income, and I don't know if there's a difference between very low income and just affordable. That's what I read, affordable. So if there's a
It's the letter of
definition?
determination, there is, it's a letter of determination from the Los Angeles City Planning Commission mailed April 3rd, 2019, following their planning department's hearing on March 14th. And it refers to 46 units being set aside for very low income households.
I'll reread it, but what I read was affordable, which I think it's a difference.
It is different. Where did you see that, Vice President Garcia?
I'm looking at transmittal number 5 to the board's report.
And to be clear, this is not, in terms of our purview, this is not a dispositive factor. But I am just curious as a matter of ancillary note.
No, you're right, Ted. It does say on that transmittal, it says very low income households. I saw that, but there's one other one that was submitted to. It's also on these. I mean, it does. I understand. It doesn't matter for the purpose of what we have to do.
If the letter, right, but if the letter of determination,
it says very low income.
Yeah, that's meaningful, and that is the very other than permanent supportive housing, that is the most substantively expensive units to provide. Okay, so I think it is always painful to remove trees. I think that there are imperfections in our process. I will note, as Mr. Jordan alluded to, and frankly, I would posit this to the community that participation in this process is critical on the front end rather than just the back end. And when these projects are going through planning, they have hearings, they have and they're noticed, and they have an appeal process on the determinations of those hearings. It is not within our purview to determine the safety of the widening. And what we have here is a situation where this is a very important project with 46 low-income units, in which we have actually a third more replacement trees guaranteed than we would otherwise actually be normally legally, or than the developer would be legally obligated to provide. I am absolutely sensitive to, hypersensitive to, frankly, any tree going away. But I do feel like in this circumstance, this removal permit is warranted. So I am prepared to motion for approval.
President
Mr.
Good?
President?
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, I did put on the table that I would like for, if we can consider, instead of planning 24-inch to be 36-inch.
Okay, and Dr. Campos, what were you going to say?
Yes, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Just for clarity and for the record, the report indicates 5 camphor trees and 1 pink trumpet tree. However, recommendation number 3 only indicates 5 camphor trees. So just wanted to have the Bureau of Street Services make that correction on record, whether we're talking about 5 trees or 6 trees. The action that the board would take at the time of considering this item would be only the 5 trees, not the 1 pink trumpet tree.
I'm not sure where it says that there's going to be a pink trumpet tree being removed. Perhaps I missed the report and the agenda both said 5 camphor trees.
Okay, my apologies. I have a report before me. On the title, it says 5 camphor trees and 1 pink trumpet tree.
Camphor trees.
That's what I have as well.
Let me go online to check to see what was posted, but recommendation number 3 only indicates the 5 camphor trees.
Yes, hey, Fernando. Initially, yes, there was a typographical error because initially the request was for the trumpet tree. However, when I reviewed the project, I indicated that I wanted to save that tree. And so therefore we made a change on that. And somehow, somewhere, that little trumpet tree remained on the title. But then we removed it, maybe about a week ago.
Okay.
It was initially scanned in as such.
Okay. So it's
Five
5
temperatures.
camper trees is what the
Period.
board will be taking action on. Okay, thank you for clarity.
So, Ms. Lee, Vice President Garcia has posited a question. I believe it is whether or not your client would be willing to do 36-inch trees versus 24-inch trees.
Since our only requirement is 24 inches box, we will proceed with the requirement, 24 inch.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead, Vice President Garcia.
that's fine, but I think to be good neighbors and good partners with the neighborhood council and with the community, I think you should consider, because I think it was part of today's calls on how we go and place smaller trees, and they do take a very long time to consider, so to grow. So that's fine if you want to take that route, but I think to be good partners and to be welcome to the community, you should reconsider and try to see how we can have better communication with the community.
I think that would be in your interest as well. Ms. Lee, do you have something to say? It looked like you were coming up. No?
Just want to mention, since the sidewalk widened, just wanted to say on the VTT condition, we're conditioned to give 5 feet highway dedication, which is 3 feet belongs to the street widening and 2 feet belongs to sidewalk widening. So either way, we're still widening the street and the sidewalk. And for the box of the tree, we would like to continue with 24 inches box, and we're still entitled to take care of the tree for next 3 years with the watering and health of the tree. So we're pretty confident.
Miss, you're pretty confident, and I don't think we're judging your confidence in taking care of the trees or making sure that you do your construction right. I think one of the things that I was mentioning, and it's fine, we can go out with what required, is I think in your best interest and your whoever the developer is, the best interest to be a good partner in the community and with the neighborhood council and the community around you that you will be going into, to reconsider and plant bigger trees so that they can grow faster and provide the shade that the community needs as they walk through the streets.
I meant of confident meaning not only the project, I consider the street tree as our project too. And of course, we want to take good care of the trees.
It's fine. They can go ahead and go with the required what they're requiring.
Okay. Thank you, Vice President Garcia. I will motion again to approve the permit request. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Do I have any objections or questions, Commissioner Davis?
Well, I think as we move forward, certainly we understand that we have every right to only comply with what is required to us by law. But as businesses, whether that business is a little country store, whether it's a big, major, huge construction project, the accommodation for some of the stakeholders for whom we are providing our business and to whom we will provide our service oftentimes warrants us to collaborate in ways in which we can, if we can afford to do so, come to a mutual agreement on some things that we can come to a mutual agreement on. So moving forward, as we continue to do business in this great multicultural, multi-ethnic city, it is my hope that our corporations who do business will be able to collaborate in some way, at some point, on some issue with those stakeholders with whom they are going to serve after they finish their project, whatever it might be. If it were an apartment building, then they would be serving that very same community to come in and to rent those apartments. And so I will just conclude on this motion in terms of supporting it with my vision for what I would like to see in the future for those who will continue to create opportunities for our citizens on one hand and do business with us on the other hand. I just hope that in the future we can collaborate to some degree with those stakeholders with whom we share this space.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis, and your comments are very well taken for sure. Commissioner Closa?
I don't have any objections, but echo the sentiments of Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Garcia that, to make the process as easy as possible, that the additional community outreach is something that, while not required by the city process, is something that I know all of us like to see. I think they're just asking for some basic communication, and I know there's been public hearings on this, but sometimes the public schedule can be hard to follow and hard to track. And so it's really helpful for the developers to go out there to explain the process so that they understand to the work that's been put in from the applicant's end in terms of reviewing the trees and the work with the Urban Forestry Division. So I echo my colleague's sentiments about that and would like to see this applicant and future applicants, do a better job about communicating to our neighborhood councils because they are part of the city family and they, they're the ones that live in the community and their opinion is important to us here at the board, even though we do have to move forward on this item today. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Closa. Vice President Garcia?
Thank you, President Good. I'm not continuing or trying to, I know we have to move forward with today's, but I do want to say, Amy, it is in the best interest for you and your developer to have a good relationship with the community groups around where you're going to go build. I'm not sure if you understood correctly why I was pushing on a 36-inch was because we did have somebody in the call asking for bigger trees because they do take longer to grow. So I hope in the future, as you continue to represent developers, that you consider the community as an important factor when you make decisions like this. I understand that the city is only requiring certain things, but like our commissioner said, we at the board prefer when there's community and there's compromise and everybody within the area is happy with the development coming in.
Hi, this is Amy, and thank you for your comment, and I will take that advice. And right now, I'm representing the developer, but I don't have authorizations to make the changes on the plan. So I will definitely go ahead and relay that information to the developer, and possible for making 36-inch boxes. But as of now, I cannot guarantee, but I will definitely talk to the developer and it will be more catered to our neighbors too.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is appreciated. That response is candidly more inspiring than the previous response. And so I would encourage the same. This is not fun. But this is a very big project it's going to meet a lot of needs, and it is certainly meeting obligations, the legal obligations. I would implore upon you, Ms. Lee, also to the greatest degree that you are empowered to do so, to speak to the developer. The difference between 24 and 36 I think would be de minimis on your end and meaningful as it relates to the goodwill of your neighbors. So I would really urge that greatly. That said, so do I have any objections to the motion to approve? Okay. I have motion, Dr. Campos, seconded by Commissioner Villegas. Hearing no objections, the request is approved forthwith. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. Okay, colleagues, I would like to I would like to take a 5-minute recess, please, and we will be back shortly.
Okay, Mr. President, we are back on recording. Let me know when you're ready, and I can reestablish quorum for you.
All right, ready to go.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. It's 11:45. We are back reconvening the Board of Public Works special meeting today for Tuesday, November 10th. Establishing quorum, President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, Commissioners Caloza and Villegas. President Good, you do have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Campos. That brings us to, colleagues, let's move to item number 4, please. This is in CD2. And item number 4 is an encroachment in the public right-of-way, Studio City Improvement Association, landscaping and irrigation. It's from the Office of Community Beautification. Recommending the board, 1, authorize the Office of Community Beautification to grant revocable permission to encroach within the public right-of-way, subject to listed conditions, to the Studio City Improvement Association, aka the BID, encroachment, installation of a variety of vegetation and irrigation on the parkway and slope area located on Ventura Boulevard, immediately west of Fairway Drive in Studio City. 2, authorize the city engineer to issue no fee revocable permit for work to be performed. 3, authorize the city engineer to issue a no fee A permit for work to be performed. And 4, authorize the Office of Community Beautification to request the Bureau of Contracts Administration to provide a no fee inspection of the project. Jerry Vallito is with us today from the Office of Community Beautification. Good morning, Jerry, still.
Good morning, President Good, Commissioners, and Mr. Executive Officer. Jerry Vallito, Assistant Director with the Office of Community Beautification. This will be the first of 2 separate Adopt a Median projects I'll be presenting today. This first project has been a highly anticipated one since its inception nearly 2 years ago. The bid has obtained the services of a landscape contractor, Wild Flora, who will be installing the irrigation and landscaping on 2 currently unimproved spaces in Studio City. The first area is the parkway between the new sidewalks on Ventura Boulevard immediately west of Fairway Drive. Drip irrigation will be installed, as well as corapia, which is a low-growing perennial grass requiring low maintenance and is able to withstand foot traffic. The second area is along the slope just above this parkway location, and drip irrigation will also be installed here, as well as a variety of drought-tolerant plants that are limited in height, such as blue agave, Muhlenbergia pink grass, and Ceanothus Yankee Point. The bid per maintenance agreement will maintain both these areas, including landscaping twice per month. All appropriate insurance information for the contractor has been uploaded to the city's Quick Comply website, and all plans for this project have been reviewed and approved by Streets LA. The group shall adhere to the conditions as provided in the approval. At this time, I'd like to request that the board adopt this project in order that we may move forward with the permitting process.
Thank you, Jerry. Colleagues, let's open up for discussion. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. I just want to flag that the Office of Councilmember Korean is in support of this project and is looking forward to improving this median. So that's it for me. I don't have any real questions.
Okay, thank you. President Pro Tem Davis.
No questions for me on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Caloza?
No questions, thank you.
All right, and Commissioner Villegas.
I just had a quick question. I was just wondering how the median was going to be funded.
Again,
it's through the bid, you said.
Yes, it's through the bid. I'm sure they have some kind of funding source. The Adopt a Median program normally doesn't inquire as to how they are procuring their funds, but typically, being that it's a bid, They normally have some funds that they've either raised or gotten together to provide for the project.
Thank you. I just wanted to know, because I guess I'll have to inquire how the bid gets their money. I'm just curious to see how the Studio City was selected, how that one was, either like selected and how they got their money. That's all. I'm excited for the project.
Commissioner Villegas, this is Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. We may have an actual member from the public that's from the Studio City Improvement Association. If you'd like, I can try that line to see if that person would like to speak and maybe address that question that you may have. I'm not sure if she knows the answer, if that's okay with you. Great. I believe caller 284. If you can please unmute your microphone at this time by pressing *6. Are you from the Studio City Improvement Association?
Yes, I am. This is Vicki Nussbaum, and I can address that question.
Great, thank you.
The project is actually being jointly funded through a number of organizations. We had a private donation for about half of the budget, I'd say, and about 25% of the budget is actually being covered through Councilmember Krikorian's office, and the remainder is being funded mostly through the Studio City Beautification Association that is working. So it's really been a community project. The bid has taken on all the maintenance and kind of the administration of getting the project through approvals. But it is fully funded at this time.
That's really helpful. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. So you got philanthropy, you got the council member office, we've got the community. That's fantastic. And under any circumstances, Jerry, with all of these items, there's a commitment. There's a legal commitment to the actual maintenance, and I know there's a letter of agreement, correct?
Yes, President Good. Any Adopt a Median project that comes through OCB has to have an accompanying maintenance agreement signed by the sponsoring organization.
Right, regardless of the source of funds.
Correct.
Okay, great. All right. So do I have? Thank you. And thank you. I can't remember your name, but thank you, ma'am. Well, forgive me. So do I have a motion to move this item forward?
I'll move. And I'll second that.
All right, I got a motion from Vice President Garcia, seconded by Commissioner Villegas. President Pro Tem Davis, any objections? Any objections, President Pro Tem Davis?
None.
Okay, good. Any objections, Commissioner Colosa?
No.
Hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you, Jerry. Sounds like a terrific project. Thank you to Councilman Krikorian for his leadership on that as well. I know he's been very engaged in that, and obviously putting in dollars, which is in some ways of engagement. All right, bringing us to another presentation from Jerry. This is in Council District 12, encroachment in public right-of-way, Granada Hills Improvement Association, Chatsworth Street, and Zelza Avenue. I'm sure I'm butchering that. Recommending the board, 1, authorize the Office of Community Beautification to grant revocable permission to encroach within the public right-of-way, subject to listed conditions, to the Granada Hills Improvement Association, encroachment, installation of 8 decorative poles with hanging flower baskets along Chatsworth Street between Encino Avenue and Lindley Avenue, as well as on Zelza Avenue between Kingsbury Street and Los Alamos Street, in Granada Hills. 2, authorize the city engineer to issue no fee revocable permit for work to be performed. 3, authorize the city engineer to issue no fee a permit for work to be performed. And 4, authorize the Office of Community Beautification to request the Bureau of Contract Administration to provide a no-fee inspection of the project. Jerry is with us again. Hi, Jerry. Tell us about this one.
Thank you, President Good. Jerry Valido again with the Office of Community Beautification. This second project that I'd like to bring before the board today is actually the second phase of a project that this board approved almost exactly 1 year ago. Phase one of this project was approved by the Board of Public Works in November 2019. The Granada Hills Improvement Association is submitting phase two of this project, which includes the installation of 8 decorative poles with hanging flower baskets that will add to the inviting visual landscape of Granada Hills. The Granada Hills Improvement Association has partnered with J&B Landscaping, who, per maintenance agreement, will maintain the artificial flower baskets as necessary. If they do not weather well, they will be replaced with real flowers and watered 3 times per week. Appropriate proof of insurance has been submitted, and the project plans were reviewed and approved by the Bureau of Engineering's Valley Office. The Granada Hills Improvement Association shall adhere to the conditions as provided in the approval, and I would like to recommend that the board similarly approve this project in order that we may proceed to the permit application process.
Thank you, Jerry. Any questions, colleagues? Let's start with Commissioner Calosa.
Thank you, President Good. I had one question for Mr. Valido. I know the letter here is from previous council member Greg Smith. Do you know if the current council member Lee supports this project?
Yes, Commissioner. I have had email correspondence. I believe the gentleman's name is Colin Cruz from the council office, and he has been working with Susan Levy of the Granada Hills Improvement Association very closely on this project, and we've been corresponding back and forth during the review process. You know, he's been emailing me with questions regarding status updates and so forth. So yes, it is being supported by the council office.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Calosa. Commissioner Villegas?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. President Pro Tem Davis, any questions?
No questions for me on this item.
All right. And Vice President Garcia?
No questions for me either.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Valido, I have no questions either. Sounds great. And I hope phase two goes well. So do I have a motion to move forward?
So move.
All right. Love it when the enthusiasm has emotions. So I'm going to thank Vice President Garcia. I had just a split second. We've got a motion from Vice President Garcia, a second from President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections, Commissioner Calosa or Commissioner Villegas?
None.
All right.
None for me either.
Okay. Thank you. Hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Valido. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you.
All right. Because I know, actually, I'll tell you what we're going to do is I'd like to skip forward to item number 7. Item number 7 is a joint report from BOE and BOS. This is in CD5. This is change order number 039, OHL USA Inc., Machado Lake Pipeline Project, Eastern Reach. This is an item recommending the board authorize the city engineer to issue change order number 039 to OHL USA Inc. for a not to exceed amount of $250,000 for the Machado Lake Pipeline Project, Eastern Reach, to complete tie-in and butterfly valve installation to comply with the State Water Resources Control Board's requirements in work areas 8 and 9. Chris Johnson is with us today. Hello, Chris.
Good morning, Mr. President. Chris Johnson with the Clean Water Division in the Bureau of Engineering. First of all, this is in Council District 15. The Machado Lake Pipeline Eastern Reach is a joint project between the Department of Water and Power and the Department of Public Works, and it constructs a pipeline that will complete the loop network recycled water distribution system in the harbor area and allow water from the Terminal Island treatment plant to be conveyed to additional end users. Project installs about 6,500 feet of 24-inch ductile iron recycled water pipe in Wilmington. Construction contract was awarded by board on May 25th, 2018 in the amount of $15,921,294 to OHL USA. And notice to proceed was issued in July of 2018. Currently, construction is about 65% complete, and we anticipate completion in November of 2021. This change concerns a requirement of the State Water Resources Control Board to eliminate discharge from the Terminal Island Water Reclamation Plant to the harbor by the end of 2020. So what this project does, it installs a valve into one leg of the system that allows one portion of the project to be energized by the end of this year and allow it to be used. The location of the valve will be near East Anaheim Street and North Watson Avenue, and the amount of change orders for not to exceed $250,000. Overall, the $250,000 represents 1.57% of change orders to date. Will bring the total to 13.92%, which is within approved construction budget. With that, I can take any questions.
Thanks, Chris. Colleagues, any questions? Starting with Vice President Garcia.
I have no questions. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Villegas.
No questions either. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Colosa.
I don't have any questions, President Good. I did just want to make minor correction. I think this project is in Council District 5, not 15. Just wanted to note that.
It's actually 15. It is 15, yeah.
Okay, so then it's the board report that is incorrect.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's the only thing I wanted to know. Thank you.
It does say CD5, at least on our agenda. It does. Yeah.
Nice catch.
Thank you, Commissioner Closa. President Pro Tem Davis.
No inquiries for me.
All right, thank you. Chris, I thought you were going to shave the beard contingent on the outcome of our national endeavor.
I'm going to have to stop coming to these meetings on account of the beard.
Oh, Dave Michelson is, right, Ted? He's shaving his. That's right. He's cutting his. All right. So thanks, Chris. I don't really have any further questions. It makes actually a lot of sense. Do we have any objections? Or I'll motion to move this forward. Any objections? Or do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections? Vice President Garcia?
No objection.
Commissioner Colosa?
No objections.
Commissioner Villegas?
No objections either. Thank you.
All right. Hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, that brings us, colleagues, to item number 8. This is this is all council districts. Removal of uncollectible. This is LA Sanitation. Removal of uncollectible accounts receivable balances of less than $5,000 owed by industrial users. Recommending the board, 1, forward this report to the Collections Board of Review and request that it authorize the Director of the Bureau of Sanitation and the Director of the Office of Accounting to administratively remove from their accounts receivables and other city records the delinquent industrial wastewater fee balances that are less than $5,000, older than 3 years, and owed by industrial users with inactive industrial wastewater permits for a total of $300,774.02. Manchai Yoprogi, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing, apologize, and Michelle Gulalia are here with us to present. Good afternoon, folks.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can we see your video?
Oh, let me see. Is it work? Yeah, I think somehow my video doesn't work. But you can hear me, right?
Yeah. Generally speaking, for all those present, we definitely prefer for folks to be on camera. There we go.
Oh, okay. It works now.
All right. Good morning, Manchai.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Manchai Yapruk, LA Sanitation Industrial Waste Management Division. I'm here to request the board to approve this report and forward the report to the collection boards of review and request that it authorize the Director of Sanitation and the Director of Office of Accounting to write off uncollectible delinquent account with balance that are less than $5,000 and older than 3 years, as listed in the attached transmittal for a total amount of $300,774.02. And here are some background. The Industrial Waste Management Division issued permit to business and industrial customer, allowing them to discharge wastewater into the city's sewer system. IWMD, the Industrial Waste Management Division, sent the customer the invoice to collect the industrial waste fee. Every time when we send the invoice to the customer has 30 days to make the payment. And when the customer failed to make the payment, their account becomes delinquent. And IWMD will send the customer a delinquent invoice with the additional late fee on top of the previous balance. When customer failed to pay, we also issue the notice of violation. After another month, we also issue a demand for payment. And then with all this, if customers still don't pay, we refer all these customers to the collection agency. And we have two levels of collection agency. The primary collection agency, which is who try to collect from this customer, this delinquent customer. And they will spend maybe around 6 to 9 months and try to collect it. And if they cannot collect, they will send all this list back to us. And then we try again. We send all this list to the secondary collection agencies. And they will spend another 6 to 9 months. And then if they fail, they will send all the lists back to us. So all these lists that attach with this transmitter, they are all inactive account, which means the business are closed. They are either change of ownership or they file for bankrupt. So basically, we cannot collect. So I'm here to request the board to approve this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Manchai. Vice President Garcia, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. President Pro Tem Davis? You're muted.
What is our total in terms of what we are writing off for this particular report?
$300,774.02.
Okay. And I know that we have been successful with those whom we've been able to contact. And some people do restore their credit with us once we approach them. And obviously we don't have those because they tend to have worked out. When you do these, and I don't know if you bring them to us quarterly or do you bring them to us twice a year, how often do you report to us about these that we need to remove from the lists?
We try to do it twice a year.
We do it twice a year. So is it about every 6 months maybe perhaps?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I support it because I understand that you're just spinning your wheels at a certain point because as you have stated that once the companies belly up and they no longer exist, there's really nowhere to get the money from. And I do know that those of us in government, oftentimes we see $100,000 or more. And we really want to try to find some ways in which we can recoup it. But I do understand your motion here today and support it because I do understand that you have done everything that you humanly can to pursue these particular debts. And I do agree that at some point it just doesn't make sense to continue to expend when we can't have any return. So I support the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Davis. Commissioner Villegas?
Good, I have no questions, thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Colosa?
Thank you, President Good. I had a quick question. I was just quickly scrolling through this, long list, and, and thank you and the team that you work with for tracking these down. I know that this is not easy work to try to get people to essentially pay their bills that they owe to the city, and I know that a lot of these, as you mentioned, are closed businesses. It looks like a lot of these are small businesses, unfortunately, but there's also some on here that I know aren't small businesses. I see a Macy's department store on here that I feel like should not be on here. So I'm not sure what the right way to handle that is, or how we can differentiate from a small business that may have closed down versus a larger business or a corporation that should not be getting this kind of leniency or write-off, if you will, since we do very well know, in fact, that Macy's is still open. They're still in business. I know that it's been tough due to the pandemic. That's something that I would like to see noted for future reports and how you all handle this, just so we can, be fair in how we treat these, since they should not be on this list. Definitely be paying their bills to the city.
I understand. Yeah, it could be a customer that may have the same name with Macy, but I will have to double check.
Yeah,
on that. Yeah,
department store is on here.
Say department store.
I don't want to hold up this item. It's not a significant amount of money. I think it's less than $200, but I just want to note that for how to handle these in the future. And just a follow-up question for me is there any information that we share with like the finance department, since they also issue business licenses within the city of Los Angeles? Do we do any coordination with them?
Yes, we do work with them especially for large account. As the invoice are greater than $5,000, we refer to them to have them help us collect.
Okay, and then just a last question for me: do we track these at all for people who may reapply for, new permits with the city or a new license, whether or not they have a history of, not paying their bills with LA Sanitation?
We knew some of the customer that they are very smart too. They change their name a little bit, or sometimes they add their new partner. They become a new entity, and when they reapply for a permit, so basically they become like another person. They either change the company name a little bit, or they bring in partner to incorporate into another entities, and then continue their business. Some of them are like, we found some of them like that too.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's tough to prove, and I know there's
it's pretty tough.
A lot of systems here that we can improve, but
right.
Okay, I don't have any other further questions for you other than that comment for future reports when you come back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, I didn't get to see the list, but I think that Commissioner Colosa makes a good point if we're talking about May Company. And it certainly has struck my curiosity as to why we didn't get a response from May Company, if it happens to be May Company.
I try to scroll down and look at the list. Hold on.
I didn't unfortunately get the list in my documents. I do have the board report, but I don't have an itemization of those companies that we are writing off the debt.
Commissioner Davis, it's part of the report. So the one that I was referring to, just so you can see,
yes.
Page 38 of the board report. So I was just looking at the one that said Macy's department stores. That was just the one that was surprising to me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, on my copy that I have online, I don't have that, unfortunately. So, because I would have certainly noticed that as well.
The transmittal number 1 to the.
Okay. Well, he can always come to our office and let us know later. Just curious.
Yeah, I will double check because I still cannot find on my list.
You can't find it either, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I cannot find it.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
I don't feel so bad. I don't feel so bad now.
Oh, it's a Macy Pizza. Okay. There's one.
Oh, that's a pizza company. It's a pizza
Macy
company.
Pizza. I saw Macy department store now. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow. Well,
I have to
certainly-
double check. I have to double check that who really pulled out this permit and using the Macy name. Look into our database. Yeah, I just not sure is really Macy department store that really the permit owner or not. So I have to double check on this one. Yes, I'll let you. I'll let everyone know next time.
Thank you, Manchai. I know that, I mean, your point is exceedingly well taken, Commissioner Closer. But the bills were due in 2016, and the cumulative is $179. So
Right.
I'm still going to suggest and motion that we move the item forward. Curious who those Macy's folks are, but we'll leave it there. Do I have a second to approve the report?
Second.
All right, thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections, Vice President Garcia?
No objections.
Commissioner Closer?
No objections.
Thank you. Commissioner Villegas?
I have no objections either, thank you.
All right. Thank you for the thorough presentation, Manchai and Michelle. And you'll have a great day. The item is approved. The report is approved and move forward forthwith.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, that brings us to item number 9, which is an authority for expenditure in CD 11, State Water Resources Control Board. Bureau of Sanitation and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $760,000 to pay for annual National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit fees. Authorize the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute this service agreement. Because it's over $100,000, this AFE will be subject to the mayor's cost containment process. Ronald Mayayu is with us from LA Sanitation. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, thank you. Yes, good afternoon, President Good, commissioners, and our city attorney. My name is Ronald Mayuyu with the LA Sanitation Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. This is a request for the board to approve and execute an authority for expenditure for the amount of $760,000 to pay the annual National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES, permit fees for the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant, as required by the California State Water Resources Control Board, under the authority of California Water Code Section 13260. As a brief background, Hyperion treats 260 million gallons per day of wastewater, and most of the treated water is discharged through a pipe 5 miles long to Santa Monica Bay. The NPDES permit issued by the State Water Resources Control Board to the City of Los Angeles allows Hyperion to discharge the treated water to Santa Monica Bay. As mentioned, the anticipated fees for fiscal year 2020-2021 are $760,000. And this is requested for the period of July 1st, 2020 to June 30th of 2021. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ronald. Colleagues, questions or comments? Vice President Garcia?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. President Pro Tem Davis?
No questions on this item.
All right. Commissioner Villegas? Commissioner Villegas, any questions?
Sorry, no questions. I was listening to you. I was thinking, I'm like, where's my mute button? I couldn't see it. Sorry.
And Commissioner Closa.
No questions for me. Thank you.
I have a motion to move this forward.
So moved.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Got a second?
I'll
Thank
second.
you, President Garcia. Any objections, Commissioner Villegas or Closa?
No objections.
All right. Hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith, subject to the mayor's cost containment process. Thank you, Ronald.
Thank you.
That brings us to item number 10. This is CDs 6, 11, 13, 15, AFE State Water Resource Control Board again. This is Bureau of Sanitation, Office of Accounting, requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $35,618 to pay for the annual renewal fee for environmental monitoring divisions, environmental laboratory accreditation program certificate for each water reclamation plant laboratory. Authorize the president or two members of the Board of Public Works to execute this service agreement. With us today, who is with us today on this item? Mahesh?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mahesh.
Good afternoon. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, President Good and commissioners. And I'm Dr. Mahesh Pujari. I'm the Assistant Division Manager of EMD, Environmental Monitoring Division. And I also manage this laboratory certification program for LA Sanitation with the State Water Board and US EPA. I'm here to just requesting a fund of $35,618 and for 4 laboratories at Hyperion, LAG, DCT, and TI. And we'll be paying fees because under the state and federal law, we have to have a permit from the ELAB, certificate from the ELAB to maintain and run the laboratory in order to qualify the data and submit to the State Water Board. And these fees will be paid in 4 separate checks from 2/1/21 until 6/30/22. And these are laboratory certificate fees mandated by federally and state mandated fee. And we need this certificate in order to function the city laboratories. And we save money doing the in-house testing and save millions of dollars for the city. And I'm here to request your approval for this funding.
Thank you, Dr. Bahari. Colleagues, any questions? Commissioner Corso?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. President Pro Tem Davis?
None for me on this item.
All right. Commissioner Villegas?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vice President Garcia?
I have no questions either. Thank you.
All right. I'll motion to move this item forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections, Vice President Garcia?
No objection.
Thank you, Commissioner Closa.
No objections.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas.
No objections either. Thank you.
All right. The item, hearing no objections, Dr. Bahari, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that brings us to item number 11. Item number 11 is also another authority for expenditure. This is South Coast Air Quality Management District, Bureau of Sanitation, and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $200,000 to pay for fees and licenses required by South Coast Air Quality Management District, a state regulatory agency. Authorize the president or two members of the Board of Public Works to execute this service agreement. Dr. Bahari, are you back with us or no? Did we?
I am speaking on this.
Oh, hi, Nicole McIntosh. Good morning or good afternoon, Ms. McIntosh. Can you go ahead?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Nicole McIntosh. I'm with the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. In
Ms.
addition,
McIntosh, I'm sorry. Forgive me interrupting. We're not hearing you. We're hearing you very faintly.
that help?
Not really, to be totally honest with you.
if I raise the volume? Did that help? Oh, technology. Is it working now?
I can hear her, but
I can hear you. Just talk.
Just
really
talk.
loud.
Just talk very loudly. I can do that.
Okay.
I will be brief. In addition to water at the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant, we also have to regulate our air emissions, and that goes through the AQMD, the Air Quality Management District. We are a Title V facility, which is regulated under the EPA Title V Air Act, and so we are obligated to fulfill our reporting requirements, and these requirements are accompanied with fees to the AQMD. Some of the items include our annual permit renewal, our annual emissions report, and miscellaneous fees for things such as any permit modifications, any improvements to equipment, and any testing that requires any review from AQMD or inspection.
Thank you, Ms. McIntosh. You did that with a great volume. Any questions, colleagues? Let's start with that. And by the way, this would be subject to the cost containment process since it's over $100,000. Vice President Garcia?
I have no questions, thank you.
All right, President Pro Tem Davis?
No questions for me.
Gotcha. Commissioner Colosa?
No questions, thank you.
All right, and Commissioner Villegas?
No questions either, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. Any objections, Vice President Garcia or President Pro Tem Davis?
No objections on my side.
Okay.
And none for me.
All right, hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith, subject to the mayor's cost containment process.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. McIntosh. All right, colleagues, let's actually real quick. Let's handle item 12. Item number 12 is a status on major upcoming street improvement projects, Bureau of Street Services. Ida Valencia is with us today. Ms. Valencia?
Yes, my video's not working now. Don't know what happened here. It was working earlier. Can you hear me though?
We can.
Okay. Sorry. My name is Aida Valencia. I'm a superintendent for the resurfacing and reconstruction section in the Valley. And I'm here to provide you information for work we are doing next week. Although we do not have any segments that we're going to be working on, we do have several, in Metro Region, we have 10 projects that we will for 5.36 lane miles of resurfacing. And in the Valley, we will have 7 projects, and that will be for a total of 5.75 lane miles of paving. And that is all we have for now.
All right. Any questions, colleagues? Thank you, Ms. Valencia. Any questions or concerns, Vice President Garcia?
No questions or concerns.
All
Thank
right.
you. Nice to see you earlier, Aida.
Nice seeing you all.
Any questions or concerns, President Pro Tem Davis?
No concerns on this item.
All right. Commissioner Colosa?
No questions or concerns, thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Villegas?
I'm fine, I don't have any questions, thank you.
All right. This report is received. Thank you very much, Ms. Valencia.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, let's go back now to item number 6. Item number 6, recall, is a report back from requested at our board meeting on October No, sorry. Yeah, on July 28th, 2020. This is all council districts. This is a report back on graffiti photos. On July 28th, 2020, the Office of Community Beautification was requested by the Board of Public Works to provide information regarding Office of Community Beautification graffiti removal contractors uploading before and after photos of each graffiti abatement job into the MyLA 311 database. We had initially agendized this for Friday, October 30, and continue to today. With us to give this report back and accompany the written report that we got is the Director of the Office of Community Beautification, Paul Roch. Good afternoon, Mr. Roch.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Paul Roch, Director of the Office of Community Beautification. Here to present our requested report back regarding graffiti abatement contractors taking before and after photos of all graffiti removal locations and uploading those photos into the MyLA 311 database, which is utilized by all of our contractors. OCB does contract with 12 separate agencies for graffiti removal services throughout the city of Los Angeles. All of these agencies enter their finalized graffiti removal information into the city-provided MyLA 311 database. Whether the graffiti was submitted as a request for service by a constituent or was proactively removed. In the past year, almost 508,000 locations of graffiti were removed throughout the city of Los Angeles, and each of these instances were entered into the MyLA 311 database. On average, it takes contractors about a minute per location to enter the information into the database and wait for that information to upload. Information entered includes the location, the type of abatement, square footage, and time spent at the site. There may be additional comments added as well. In many cases, OCB contractors do take before and after photos of the graffiti removed, which is typically done for graffiti that may have an investigative value to law enforcement, such as gang graffiti, graffiti that is racist in nature, a prolific tagger in a particular area, or other reasons as requested by OCB or law enforcement. OCB contractors estimate that the time spent adding a before and after photo to a particular request into the system may add an additional 3 to 5 minutes per incident. In many cases, OCB contractors do take photos of the graffiti abatement work, but do not enter these photos into the system due to those time constraints. They do keep these photos for a certain amount of time should they be required by OCB, law enforcement, etc. If the city were to require that photos be uploaded for each graffiti removal instance, then additional data entry personnel would likely need to be hired by OCB contractors. In talking to all of the contractors, it was estimated that about 12 new data entry positions would be needed at an additional cost of around $375,000 per year. Or the alternative would be to have the graffiti removal field staff enter these photos into the system using the field data entry units that some of them currently possess. Again, it's estimated this would take about 1.5 hours of their time, which could be spent removing graffiti and entering the photos into the system instead. Or another way to look at it would be resulting in 127 fewer hours of graffiti removal per day across the city of Los Angeles. As part of the submitted report back are individual comments and breakdowns for each of the OCB contractors and how they deal with photos of graffiti removal. In concept, OCB is supportive of the idea of having photos of graffiti removal entered into the database. It certainly would be helpful in our case as we go through and look at individual requests. However, at this time, the additional costs or loss of productivity would seem to have an overall negative effect. OCB will continue to work with our contractors and with ITA to investigate various technology upgrades that may be able to reduce the cost or the time spent uploading photos. At this point, I'm available for any questions that any commissioners may have. Thank you.
You're muted.
You're still muted.
Greg, you're muted.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, President Good.
So
there you go.
Trying to tell Vice President Garcia over and over again that she was muted. She did.
I'm telling you, you were muted.
Very well done, President Good. Okay, so Vice President Garcia, any questions for Mr. Raj?
Thank you, Mr. Raj, for the report and for the work that you went into this. I also did take some meetings on, and asked for, took some meetings from some of the contractors on this situation, and I kind of went through their day-to-day and see what it looked like. I understand that they're having an issue with the time being spent, but what I see from all of them, I think there's a lack of consistency of what is being reported and what is not being reported. Or, I mean, I shouldn't say not being reported, or what is being uploaded and what is not. I think some are doing what is LAPD or something when it comes to public safety, and some are not. Some are putting proactive pictures, some are not. I think I don't have questions well, I do actually. Paul, you said that if the field data entry folks were to enter these pictures, it would take them 1.5 hours of their time. Would that be 1.5 hours of their time per week, or would that be 1.5 hours of their time per day?
That would be per day.
Wow, it really takes that long to upload to the 311 system?
It does, especially with photos, because it just takes a while not to enter it in, but to wait for a particular photo to upload into the system. Some of it is based on Wi-Fi capability or internet capability on their site, but also just dependent, the MyLA 311 system is obviously used by, so many city agencies that there are certain parts or times of the day where everybody's trying to pull out their request or submit their information, and it can really be slow. So again, on average, it takes them 3 to 5 minutes to upload, before and after photos along with the information that they already do upload.
What is our requirement to them? What is it that they do have to upload?
Yeah, contractually.
Based on the contract.
Yeah, the contract does not state anything about uploading photos. They don't have to contractually upload photos. They do have to, provide photos if requested from LAPD, or if a OCB has a particular reason where we may want photos or something like that. But there's no contractual requirement that they be uploaded into the database.
I see. Okay. Those are it for now. I look forward to the conversation and the discussion on today. And I may just come back, President Good, for more. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis.
I wanted to talk about the operation of this proposal. Certainly, having this system is very helpful to constituents and to stakeholders who might need it to see, and also is helpful to the workers, because oftentimes when you remove graffiti on Monday and then a person who requested you to do it comes around on Thursday and it's graffitied again and they accuse you of never having completed it. So these photos as a result in terms of performance are critically important. However, in our recommendation of this idea, there still is a gap in terms of being able to implement this effectively and efficiently. It appears that there needs to be another staff member to be the administrator to process these pictures when they come in, or maybe two different staff members to process this when it comes in. And I don't know if you perhaps have a recommendation of what additionally we need to have take place to appropriately implement and manage this system. So here's my question. What do you recommend that we really have to implement this program? And how many staff does it take in your recommendation if you have such a recommendation?
Yes, Commissioner Davis, thank you for the question. We did look at that issue, and you are correct. It probably would take additional data entry personnel who would be solely focused on helping enter all the photos into the system. We would estimate it would take about 12 additional data entry positions for the contractors. Some of the contractors right now enter the information, and that person may need to be moved to full-time, something like that. Overall, it'd be 12 additional positions with an anticipated cost of about $375,000 per year.
So to appropriately implement this system, we need 12 additional staff members, and the budget is going to be about $300,000, coupled with the $18,000 per year that we spend on the software or the technology to which we enter the pictures. Is that correct?
Well, the technology is part of the MyLA 311 system now.
So we already pay for that. We already pay.
Well, we're not actually paying for the MyLA 311 system. What we're currently paying for in the $18,000 you mentioned is additional software that allows the crews in the field to enter the information and close out a request while they're in the field. And that may or may not include attaching a photo. It's certainly good to have the ability to close out requests in the field. If they are also attaching photos at the same time, then that does add to the time that the field person has to kind of wait for that information to upload through the software before they can do the next location. So I think ideally, probably the best way to do it and still maintain the level of graffiti abatement service would be the hiring of additional data entry people who would work in the offices of the individual contractors and would then get all those photos at the end of the day and be able to upload them into the system.
So then you would recommend that we would, in the perfect world, hire 12 additional staff members that work on those teams with the graffiti workers. Is that correct?
In a perfect world, yes.
Is there a program that could be phased in, for example, instead of starting out with 12, we could do 6? Because this pilot project, is the pilot project over with?
No, we're currently doing the pilot project. We have about 20 of the units that the fields are able to close out the requests in the field. We would like to expand that to all of our crews, just to close out the actual the square footage and time spent at a location and stuff like that. That can happen very quickly because it's just kind of basic data, so it tends to upload very fast. When you're uploading the photos along with it, that's what really slows down the whole process. You have to just wait a lot longer for the photos, and typically you're uploading 2 photos, a before photo and an after photo. So it does take longer in those cases.
So basically what I hear you saying is it would be helpful as we have tested the pilot for the board to try to figure out where we could get $300,000 for to effectively implement this program. Is that correct?
That's correct. Okay. And it'd be closer to, it'd be about $350 to $375 would be the anticipated cost. Yeah.
And then at what point in time should we discuss this possibility in terms of implementation? I mean, we don't want to wait to the last minute. When should we be talking about coming back with an understanding of expansion? When should we start talking about that?
Well, I suppose, I mean, this year coming up is obviously going to be a tough budget year. This issue kind of came up after, the budgets were kind of submitted and stuff like that. I don't know about the possibility of submitting another budget request specifically for this this information, and whether the city would be open to additional funding for graffiti removal for the implementation of putting before and after photos. But I suppose that if not this year, certainly in next year's budget, it might be something to consider.
One final question. Do you have access, as most of our bureaus do, to a grants person who could explore the possibilities of where grants are, and secondly, could write a grant? Because when we have these ideas that are great and they help our operation, we're going to have to dig in to do more about implementing them in a way that this city deserves. We're a big city, so we can't come in here like we're Hooterville and try to have these guys do it and get behind the graffiti that they need to do. So in attempts to try to move forward and to think forward, I'm asking you then, how can you communicate with grant people who can help you to achieve this goal?
Yeah, Commissioner, that's a good question. I believe that the board in its budget for the next fiscal year is requesting a position that would look for grants for all sorts of different Board of Public Works projects. And this could certainly be one of the first ones that maybe they would look for, would be potential grants to fund the taking of photos and stuff like that. Otherwise, within OCB, right now our staff is fairly small and doing a lot of projects. We could spend a little bit of time looking for potential grants and stuff like that, certainly. But I think if the board were to get that position of somebody focused on obtaining grants, that would be a perfect opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you for your report, and I know that here on the board, because we know that this is a great service that we have requested and that it has a value in terms of improving performance of graffiti delivery service on one hand, and on the other hand, that if we are able to do it and implement it appropriately, it will certainly put our city to a level of being very efficient as it relates to graffiti removal. So I think that this is, as a result of this report, something that we need to put on our bucket list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I I won't take up too much of your time, and thank you for answering all of the questions. I appreciate it. I was wondering, Paul, if you'd checked in with other local governments and see how they handle this issue.
No, I really didn't or haven't checked with other government agencies specifically as to them taking photos of every individual location. I do know that a lot of the governments, such as LA County, I know, and some of the smaller cities utilize the Taggers program, which we utilize as well, that again is focused on taking photos that seem to have law enforcement interest or investigative value. I don't know if anybody is taking photos of every single location that they do.
Yeah, I am very familiar with the Taggers program. We do use it at LA County Public Works, or when I was there, they use it. I know that they work closely with LA County sheriffs as well. It is a very costly program. And I'm glad that you at least took a look at something like that. You know, we will always be behind the 8 ball on this issue, I feel, because there is rampant graffiti, and it does go up and down throughout the time, and it's just always what is happening in our society when we get peaks. That is all. That is all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Coloso.
Thank you, President Good. Hi, Mr. Rax. Nice to see you again. Thank you for your work on this and your team, and thanks also to the contractors who participated and gave their feedback on this report. I wanted to ask you about kind of your process and how you went about putting together this recommendation. I know what you said so far and what's outlined in the report just states mostly 2 options on how to move forward and to proceed. And so I just wanted to understand how you went about putting together this recommendation for a potential pilot.
Yeah, well, you know, each of the OCB coordinators, you know, who are assigned to the various contractors, outreach to their individual contractors that they work closely with, got some of their input, some of their comments, their feelings about how easy or time-consuming it would be, or whether they felt they would need additional personnel in order to upload photos of every particular instance of graffiti. As was mentioned previously, different contractors do kind of do things in different ways. Some of them do take photos of you know, almost every location that they have abated graffiti from, and don't enter those into the database, but keep those records for a certain amount of time should they be requested for any reason. Other ones just take photos, again, if it seems to have some value to law enforcement. So, and again, I mean, we really did look at just the 2 options. One, which would be, how could we do things with current personnel resources? And if we were to do that, what would be the outcome of that in terms of them spending more time entering information into the system and less time removing it out in the field? Or what would be the additional resources needed if we were to keep the same amount of time spent removing graffiti? How many additional positions would be needed to enter that information into the database?
Got it. And so, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, obviously all of us are very sensitive of is the cost and any additional, you know, funding that would add to the cost of this program. Of course, we're very sensitive to, I'm very sensitive to. I do, though, you know, sounds like from your outline that it sounds like maybe the contractors directed some of the recommendations that you're putting forth. I really would have liked to see more options on the table to accomplish really what the intent was for why we asked you to put together a pilot program. So to just kind of take it back to our meeting from when, we had a very long discussion here before the board about why this was added as a report back, which was supposed to be due in 30 days, right? I understand that there's been COVID, so I think we're at 91 days right now from when we were supposed to hear this report back. But the original intent of this pilot program was really not to apply to the entire program as a whole, but really to contractors that may be, non-compliant, or we may have received multiple complaints about. And it's really to understand the full scope of what importance your program has on the community. And that, I think the last contract before we approved this new one, I think we had it for about, almost a decade, right? About 8 years. And then we saw and we heard from your team about the number of contract amendments that came before board, where council offices were putting so much of their own discretionary dollars into utilizing this program. And that's why this was important for us to really look at what improvements could be made overall to this program, because at the end of the day, this is one of those programs that everybody cares about. And so really the goal of the pilot is to make sure that we continue to be successful, because very little changes have been made to this program as a whole over the past decade. And we have had performance issues, that is a fact. We have had complaints, and aside from dealing with them here at the board, which I personally prefer not to do, how do we really make sure that there are built-in, performance measures so that we can really make sure that the performance is there and it's consistent across all the contractors, and that it's not something that we have to play out here at board. And so that's one of the things that I really, just want to take it back down to why we asked you to do this. And one of the things that I want to see, because I don't think that, at least for me, this discussion is over, but I don't think there's just two options on the table. I understand this $350,000 that you put together as an estimate, but I know it seems dramatic for this program, but almost all of the other major programs that involve community and the council offices have this type of performance metric. Our sidewalk program, our city plants program, our street repaving program. And I don't believe that it costs us an additional $350,000 to get to higher level of performance, where there's also a level of accountability and outreach that results in being able to share this kind of output from the work that we're doing. And so, with that, one of my follow-up questions to you, Mr. Roch, is how big is your team right now?
Right now, I have 4 community coordinators, 1 administrative person who will be leaving as part of the SIP program in a couple of months, and we have our warehouse staff. So we have about a staff of about seven folks right now. We are down from where we used to be. So that's the OCB staff in person, and then obviously they're all the contractors and their staff.
And so from the 4 community coordinators that you have, can you just briefly describe to us what their main responsibility is in delivering this program?
Yeah, well, they have several responsibilities. Part of it is monitoring and administering the contracts of, 2 or 3 graffiti contractors each. Some have a few more, some have a few less. It's not just the graffiti abatement contracts, it's also the public right-of-way cleanup contracts, some tree planting contracts, clean and green. So in total, we have probably 25-ish, roughly, contracts that we monitor. In terms of graffiti, the coordinators do work closely with the contractors. We try to get out there and do field inspections. It's harder these days with COVID. Some of our coordinators are more able or willing to go out into the field and work with their contractors. Other ones have various issues that make it a bit harder to get out there. But in general, they work closely with the communities, with the different neighborhood councils and the council offices, intercede if there are any complaints that come through, and obviously with the program of this size, there are, where something happens, and those community coordinators have to kind of intercede just to rectify the situation.
Thanks, Mr. Raj. And can you just briefly explain what percentage of their work is field work, if any?
It's quite a bit less these days due to COVID. But in general, kind of pre-COVID, again, it kind of depends on the particular coordinator. Some of them may spend up to 75% of their time in the field, whether that's working with community groups to coordinate neighborhood cleanup events, or whether it's monitoring the work of particular contractors that they oversee. Other ones, again, we have a lot of other side programs, whether it's going into court and testifying in graffiti cases, Adopt a Median, assisting Keep Los Angeles Beautiful, working on the sidewalk repair program. There are a number of other projects that do take up certain amounts of their time. So again, some of our coordinators have more contractors and they will therefore spend more time in the field than others.
So one of the options that I wish I don't, I mean, since this is the end of the discussion, but I would really like to see an option here, how we can really utilize your team that is already going out into the field, that is already doing the monitoring of these contractors, to be part of a pilot, or this pilot that's before us today, not for the entire program as a whole, but for those where there may be complaints. Because it has happened in the past, and we quite frankly, we didn't have a consistent plan for how to proceed, how to treat these instances, because we know that each contractor is different, each circumstance is different. I understand that you all do an investigation. I think to what was alluded earlier by Vice President Garcia, is that what we really need are just more consistent standards for what we expect. And that is very clear from even just the testimony and the report given by each contractor. Each one is doing something different, and it really, we should try to strive for more consistency where possible, so that it's fair and that there's clear expectations there about what we expect, what they're able to do given the resources, and that we have a better understanding of where our limitations are, and how do we work with each contractor, because I know it's going to be very different for each one. But that's certainly something that I would like to see, for as a follow-up, is really understanding how do we utilize your existing staff to help us make this program better. And let me see here if I have any other questions right now. I know the other thing too, and that could be looked into, that again, I would have loved to see this as another option in your report, is how do we tap into some of the youth hiring that we have over the summer to help with some of this work. One of the things we don't want to do is to see less graffiti removed, but we also want to see performance improved as well for those that we have heard about. But so how do we tap into the youth hiring that we do to help with some of this work as part of the pilot? I would have loved to see that in your report. And the third one, and Commissioner Villegas also mentioned this, is how did the other, not just other governmental agencies, but how did other programs within the city family accomplish this? How did city plans do this? How did the sidewalk repair program do this? If the MILA 311 does not work for us in this pilot program, I would have loved to see other options explored that could be cheaper or more affordable or could be free. It may not be that they upload every single photo, but they take a photo of, 50% of the abatement, but I think that there's a lot more here that we can really dig into that I would love to see as a follow-up. So I will just conclude saying that I understand and respect, OCB's work around this and the contractors' work in this, and all this is about, wanting to make the program better, because a lot of people really care about this, and it is a very big program when you look at the scope of what its impact is going to be over the next, 8-9 years, which is what it's probably going to be on track to do for this specific contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Calosa. Thank you, Mr. Roch. So I think it's a very helpful discussion. I think that the report is helpful. Paul, I think it's what we've got here is critical information. I mean, the practical reality is that the costs matter, particularly today, particularly now. Efficiency and timeliness matter, always. I would even maybe there argue, particularly now and particularly in this moment, we're in a situation where resources are stretched profoundly, and that will only continue. I would echo everyone's point, and I think it always merits repeating that the work of our OCB contractors and the work of OCB is not only really important, but generally recognized as very effective. I can speak to, for example, not only the sort of lack of complaints from the folks who are going to often complain if things aren't going well, like council offices or other offices, but also speak to the timeliness of response in the aftermath of the sort of melee that emerged after the Lakers won the NBA championship, after the Dodgers. Paul, you were commended. I commend you for getting the crews out proactively and on the case and being so helpful to me in reporting out on that. With all that said, I do think that the import of this program is such that I share, and I think you do too, Paul, inevitably, if we all step back. I share Commissioner Calosa's and Vice President Garcia's sentiments that we go backwards if we don't go forward, and I do think that it would be a very healthy and helpful exercise to really to step back and to not contemplate just an either-or model, but what are the shades in between, and more specifically, or not more specifically, but concurrently with that, how is performance aligning with the goals of the mayor's office and of the the council. And you know, I don't know what those are and what those metrics are right now. I know we have metrics around turnover, response time, et cetera. But I do think, and that's great. I think there's room for some more. And I think an interesting thing to think about would be, and maybe interesting is self-indulgent, but I would argue that it could be interesting to contemplate a model that doesn't require all the contractors to take photos of every before and after, but maybe it is your contract coordinators, for example, doing spot checks. Maybe it's taking before and afters, every 100 requests. I don't know, and I'm literally spitballing in service to Commissioner Close's point that these are our partners. We have ambitious goals with these. I think it merits stepping back and saying, okay, well, here's what we figured out with this pilot. We figured out that, I think we can presuppose that in a perfect world, in a blue sky world where still connectivity is fast enough, where Mile A311 is fast enough, where the OCBs or the contractors have unlimited capacity, I think it's hard to argue that taking before and after photos of every job wouldn't be the optimal. But it also doesn't seem practicable at all right now. That doesn't preclude other things. And so this is a long-winded way of saying this is really important information. We see that, that level of requirement probably doesn't work given our resources, given our capacity, and given the capacity of the contractors. But we don't quit at getting better. We don't quit at learning more about our work. And frankly, I say this with love to our contractors, ensuring that the city's most and best equipped to hold everybody accountable that we do business with. So what I would like to do is I would, and I don't know, Dr. Campos, I don't know if this requires a motion or if I can just instruct it, but to ask Mr. Roch to report back in, let's say, 45 days with an assessment of metrics that are possible and that could be helpful, most helpful in assessing the success of the program and or the challenges with the program or even failures at points with the program. That's not presupposing, Paul, that there's ever failures. I'm just saying, let's look at the different ways we can look at this. And then additionally to report back on other ways, because what we do also know is that, we do know that the contractors do take photos sometimes, where there's an evidentiary need, where there is, as you alluded to, where there's hate speech, et cetera. We know that some, I think Graffiti Busters in Silmar maybe seems to be doing it more than others. So there are potential hybrids here that I'd love for you to report back on in 45 days. I would also ask that you work with Commissioner Colosa and Vice President Garcia. Vice President Garcia is the liaison with OCB. Commissioner Colosa has been deeply engaged in this and very committed. I would ask that you work with them. And then I'd love to see her back in 45 days. Dr. Campos.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I want to get some clarity here. I was here when we did the first request, and the first request was to do these pictures. Now, I'm trying to make sure that what we're requesting that I'm clear about. So what are we requesting now? We're requesting to look at some alternatives?
Yeah.
Okay.
What Mr. Roch and OCB tested/piloted with the contractors and surveyed with the contractors was a model of sort of 0 to 60, right, or 0 to 100.
Right.
Either only very limited photographs being required based on evidentiary need, et cetera, or all of them?
Okay.
And what I think there are a couple of things that we could still be looking at here. And I'll tell you, I've had other conversations with other folks in the building who have, again, without derision, have said it'd be great to get more data from our graffiti abatement contracts. So I would like to have the report, President Pro Tem Davis, look at other ways that we can use photos. So if we can't afford to have photos taken every single time, what are ways we can look at it? Is it spot checks from the contract coordinators? Is it periodic photos? Are there other particular types of jobs, frankly, that may merit photos more than others?
But one of the things we didn't do, President, is we know that sanitation does it. But what we don't know is how does sanitation do it? For example, does sanitation have a budget? That's right. That's knowledge. That's right in our very department. So once we discover that, that will be the foundation upon which we can make some other decisions. The other thing is...
Wait, real quick, President Pro Tem Davis.
Yeah.
I just want to my support for that point. So I think another thing to look at would be, Mr. Roch, best practices among other city departments, and how and really dissecting how they're doing it, even if it is a matter of dollars. That's information that matters. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to.
Yeah. One other point I wanted to make. I'm not going to belabor the point, but I think that this is fruitful. Are we opposed to exploring granting? Because granting, and we all know what a grant is, doesn't cost us any money. So my question to us is, are we opposed to exploring the possibility of having grant assistance to do this work? Don't we believe when we ask the question that to do this helps our performance? Don't we believe that we want to perform at this level? And if those two questions are correct, then why or are we opposed to looking at grants to get it? When you just asked for us to explore the answer in terms of how sanitation and others do it, we might discover that that's how they do it. We don't know the answer. But my question to us is, are we opposed to grants? Because we certainly want this performance to happen. Why are we afraid to lift the lid and do the extra mile of what it takes to make it happen? It seems to me that we did this pilot, and now that it costs money, we don't want to do it. Well, my thing is, let's do it. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And let's look at the grants and explore it. That's how I see it.
So I don't think what I was saying actually precludes what you're saying. I think that there is a practical reality, even with grants, which is what we've heard so far, is ultimately that this is going to be about human capacity. And so even with grants, you have, bottom line is grants are finite, and they don't work with hiring people. They don't work with creating a long-term system. Totally agree. We should look at grants and other ways to do this. And also agree that we need to figure out but we also need to figure out what we can do with our existing resources, even as we're looking at how to get other resources. So I think all of that's on the table, with the presupposition that we all stipulate to the fact that we want to get the program as well as it's performing, Mr. Roch, to continue to get it better. Commissioner Villegas.
Just a quick question, just because we work with the Conservation Corps so much. Have we looked at state code through the Conservation Corps and seeing if we can have our California Conservation Corps allow graffiti as one of those eligible expenses through any of the state bond measures? Just a thought.
I mean, we haven't looked at state bond particular measures. In the past, we have looked at various measures, such as, putting a tax on spray paint or something like that to help pay for additional resources. Certainly, when OCB coordinators do go out into the field, they do look at they do spot checks of various locations that the contractors have removed, as well as just driving major corridors and looking at everything that they particularly come across. We certainly do know how to upload before and after photos into the MyLA 311 system. Our public right-of-way cleanup program that does the weed and litter abatement does require that of our contractors. So it's not that it can't be done. It's just, sort of a matter of perspective. We got 508,000 locations for graffiti. For the weed and litter abatement, it's 8,000. So there's just a whole different level of the amount of time that it takes. But I certainly agree with all the comments, and we will certainly look into these, and we're happy to report back in 45 days.
Thanks.
Can I say something, President Good?
Please.
I'm very happy with everybody's comments. I think it's something we should incorporate, Paul. If it's possible during this 45 days, I can work with you. One of the things that I think I would want to see is for us to get a common criteria within all contractors to agree on what pictures go up and what don't. I think that would simplify some of the conversation we're having. And then secondly, the grants conversation, we have been working on this for the past 2 years, trying to get a position on that. Completely have been denied, which is fine. But we are beginning a task force that Dr. Campos, I, and Norman have been really circulating on to who will be in that grants task force. So it's not something that we're not denying or we don't want to do. We definitely want to make sure that we bring in not just OCB, but all around public works. So that's another conversation that we're having. We intend to have probably our first meeting in December and be more active and aggressive in grant seeking starting January of 2021. That has been a plan that we talked about. I think we brought it to your attention about a couple weeks ago, President Good, but it's something that Dr. Campos and I have been putting together for the past month or so, and it hasn't been something. And we also, by the way, asked for it in our budget this year. We were denied again, which is fine. So we're just gonna do it within the department, and that's what we'll do. So for the next 45 days, Paul, I think if anything, I want to work with you on putting together a common criteria for all contractors, just to get what pictures will go up and what wouldn't go up, and hopefully we don't have any additional cost on that.
Okay, and certainly, again, as Commissioner Davis sort of alluded to, I believe that my understanding of the original request from the board was what would it take to put 100% of our locations to have before and after photos. I think if we lower that down to a number like 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 or something like that, we can have that implemented, almost, ASAP.
Right, because from having the conversation with the contractors and understanding their day-to-day, it doesn't make sense for us to put in 100% of the pictures because some of them are like on streetlight poles or just small tags and, markers that they tag around that you guys go out there. I think one of the requests and one of the things that I was asking some of the contractors was, can we then just have the pictures of the big items and stuff that is in the public right away, or things that are on main streets, on very visible ones. And obviously that also goes with the LAPD pictures that they would need and so forth. So I think we just have to come up with a criteria because I don't want to say 100% of all the pictures. It is a lot, and they do take care of, sometimes it's small taggings on the sidewalk, small taggings on just on one wall. Those might not be that important, but ultimately, the bottom line, I think that that all of this was prompted by was because we want to make sure that we as OCB graffiti contractors respect what is seen, like in a big major street, and we work around making sure that we leave it as it was before the tagging. That's really what I think prompted this from the very beginning. And so I just want to make sure that we tackle those big graffitis and those graffitis that are on big streets that are seen by a lot of people and obviously on public right-of-ways would be my request. But we can work together on putting that criteria together.
Great. Then, Dr. Campos, does that require a motion or just I can just instruct?
Campos?
Dr. Campos?
Is he there?
I am here, however, I'm having some difficulties with my Wi-Fi in my office. Can you hear me?
Yeah, did you hear my question?
No, I did not.
Does this require a motion or can I just give the instruction?
So there's two options that the board can take for this item. We can hold this item on advisement for 45 days and ask Mr. Roch to report back within 45 days on the metrics to assess the program's key success indicators, including the pilot to upload photos as an option or other ways to use photos and best practices that are being used amongst other city departments. That's option number one. The second option is that you can receive this item as amended to include that report back, and then Mr. Roch can come back in 45 days as a separate item, and then the board can take action on a secondary report or a separate report. So again, you can hold it on advisement, continue it for 45 days, request Mr. Roch to submit a supplemental report. Then at that point, your board can consider both reports at the same time and then make an action item out of it or receive both reports. Or two, you can just receive this report as amended to request that report back.
I think I'd like for us to hold this on advisement so that report one is in the same package report ultimately as the subsequent report back. So let's hold this on advisement for 45 days with the direction that Roch will work with Commissioner Closa and Vice President Garcia on exploring best practices among departments, funding possibilities in and outside the city, hybrid models for using photographs, norming the use of photographs among our contractors, and other potential metrics to measure efficacy and efficiency for the contractors, and whatever else they come up with.
Great. Mr. President, 45 days would put you at December 25th, which would be our holiday recess and also a holiday for the city. The next available board date would be Tuesday, January 5th or Friday, January 8th. Do you have a preference?
Who would object to doing this on Christmas Day? I don't understand.
I'm fine with that. If you guys are there, I'm there.
I actually have no doubt about that. All right, so let's...
Any preference for Friday the 8th or Tuesday, January 5th?
Why don't we say Friday the 8th? That way everyone has time to... I mean, this is a marathon and a sprint. I'd like this to... but I'd like adequate time to be really put into this. So, I think that let's go with... Unless there's any major objections from folks, let's plan for Friday, January 8th. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jerry. Dr. Campos, you're good? And
I'm good on item 6.
Does that clear the deck for today?
Mr. President, that does. However, I have a quick question, clarification on item number 9. It was an authority for expenditure for the State Water Resources Control Board. This item was for $760,000, and I may have missed the board's recommendation on this. This was approved, motion by Davis, seconded by Garcia, Commissioner Garcia. This item needed to be amended subject to the mayor's approval. Was that called out during this item?
Yes.
On item number 9?
Yes, I called.
Yes, it was. Okay, great. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that was the board's in.
Absolutely.
Great. With that said,
This is Ted. That's a item for the State Water Resources Control Board.
That is correct.
Permit fee. So I consider those matters urgent by definition. So They may, in fact, be subject to the mayor's directive, but
it
should be expedited to the extent humanly possible.
Yeah, Ted, it is subject to the mayor's cost containment process, and sanitation is urged to request, and that the process is for them to request exemption based on that.
Yes. Be ashamed to be late.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, agreed. We're still navigating this process for sure. Okay.
With that said, Mr. President, the deck is clear.
All right. Thank you so much. With that, thank you, everybody. Nice, brief meeting, which is now officially adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have great days, okay?
Thank you.